Let's talk about the Lions and Chargers game from this weekend. That was a great game. I was more tuned into the Seahawks because they're my favorite team, but the Lions and Chargers, that was a shootout in Los Angeles. I thought for a second the Chargers were going to win it. I predicted that they would. I was hoping they would. Of course, they did not. Jared Goff, great game from him. 23 for 33, 333 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks. The Lions pick up 41 points in a crazy game. They win on a game-winning field goal, by the way. David Montgomery, 116 yards and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 2 touchdowns, 77 yards. Jahmyr Gibbs also with 3 receptions. He had a great game. He is really starting to come into his own. I think Jahmyr Gibbs might be the best rookie running back in the NFL. I know a lot of people talked about Bijan as the top rookie running back in the NFL, but I'm not so sure if that's true. I honestly think Jahmyr Gibbs is better than Bijan Robinson right now. He's been playing out of his mind lately. The Lions have everything. They have the run game. They have the pass game. They have solid players on defense. They're going to be a threat in the playoffs, and I knew they were going to be good, but even I did not see 7-2. 7-2, they're really good. And incredibly, somehow, they're only a game and a half over Minnesota. Minnesota's still right there with them in the division, which is crazy to me, but there they are. Those Lions versus Vikings games at the end of the season are going to be extremely hype. I think that's probably going to decide the division. But right now the Lions are playing super well. Amon-Ra St. Brown yesterday, 156 yards, 8 receptions, and a touchdown. He had an incredible game. Sam Laporta didn't do very much, but he's been rolling lately. Kirby Joseph with an interception. It was the entire team. It was the whole team. They did what they had to do. The Chargers, meanwhile, another close loss. Justin Herbert played incredible. 4 touchdowns, 1 pick, 27 for 40, 323 yards. He had another great game, as he often does. But my fear is beginning to come true. Justin Herbert is turning into Phillip Rivers. He is. That's what he's turning into. He's going to be a guy who's going to put up amazing stats and can't win in the big games, and it's not his fault. It's not Kirk Cousins' fault, right? It was never Phillip Rivers' fault that the Chargers couldn't win. It was never Kirk Cousins' fault that his teams weren't winning the biggest games. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say this. It's usually not been Dak's fault when the Cowboys aren't able to win the big games, but the problem is it's the whole team's fault, and the quarterback's going to be the one who gets the most heat for it. And right now, Herbert's putting up crazy numbers, and his team is 4-5. If Herbert's team was a winning team with playoff hopes and playoff trajectory, he'd be in the MVP conversation. But he's not, because his team isn't performing. If he'd have beaten, even if Justin Herbert had beaten the Lions, it was a 3-point game. If he had beaten the Lions, they'd be 5-4. We'd be talking about him the same way we're currently talking about CJ Stroud, which is he the MVP favorite? Which he's not, by the way. I talked about that in another video. You can check that one out. But the problem with Herbert is that small mistakes from his team are costing him. Herbert's a good player. He is a very good player. And people are going to try to argue that he's not. Those people are wrong. Because the numbers back it all up. I mean, he's really good. Keenan Allen had another crazy good game. 11 receptions, 175 yards, 2 touchdowns. Jalen Newton gets with a touchdown, and Quentin Johnston, the rookie Quentin Johnston, with what I believe was his first NFL touchdown. It was. He's finally making an appearance after a long time of Quentin Johnston not doing anything, really. He finally makes an appearance, does something good for his team with his first NFL touchdown, which is all very good to see. Obviously, filling in for Mike Williams, who's out. Josh Palmer, I believe, is out. So it's been a rough go at it. As far as keeping his players healthy, they're taking advantage. Austin Eckler's back, playing well. The Chargers are not a bad football team, and yet they are 4-5. What's the problem here? Well, last game they didn't get to the quarterback at all. Khalil Mack, 0 sacks last game. The Chargers win when Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa are getting to the quarterback, and last game they did not do that. But the Chargers also win when their coach doesn't make stupid decisions. And again, Brandon Staley and that coaching staff, they look like they aren't prepared. The Chargers had to come back to get into that game. They were down by 2 scores. They came back to get back into it. The coaching should be prepared for games like that. You know the Lions are going to be tough. You know they have a good run game. You know this is a game that you kind of have to win. I mean, it's not a must-win, but it's a game that you really kind of need to. I mean, you're 4-4. That's the difference between a wild card spot and being out of the playoff hunt. So the Chargers, they knew what they need to do. They know exactly what the plan has to be, and they failed to execute that plan. The coaching staff deserves a lot of the blame, and I honestly think that Brandon Staley needs to go at the end of the season if they want to be competitive. But, and again, it's like when Staley was hired, people said it was a great hire. When Dan Campbell was hired, they said it was a terrible hire. Look who's laughing now. Dan Campbell, one of the best coaches right now in the NFL. Brandon Staley's been on the hot seat for 2 years. And that's all I have to say about it. This is Coast to Coast Sports. Leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to the channel for more videos.